Okay, class, it's Algebra 1A, and we are going to review the concept of evaluate expressions. So we discussed evaluate back in pre-algebra, so we just want to do a quick review to make sure we're all on the same page. So here's our example problem where we're going to evaluate expressions. So first notice that here's our expression. It is 3xy plus 2y minus y over x plus x squared. This is the expression that we're talking about. It's an expression because it has operations as well as variables, but it does not have an equal sign. If it had an equal sign, it would be an equation, but since it does not, it's an expression. And normally we could not solve this just like it is because we don't know what x and we don't know what y are. However, over here, there's some extra information. They've told us over here that x does in fact equal 2 and y does in fact equal -4. So if we know the values of these variables, we know the values of the unknown, we can plug them in and evaluate for the answer. So this is what some teachers will call the plug and chug. We have the information, we're going to plug it in, and then we're going to chug out an answer. So the first thing we need to do is go ahead and substitute in those values that we know. Over here we have 3xy. Whenever you have a number right next to variables, the 3 next to the x next to the y, multiplication is our default operation. So that is in fact 3 times the x, and now we know that the x is 2, times the y, and now we know that the y is -4. I go ahead and put the parentheses around the -4 because whenever there's a negative, if you don't put parentheses, it can get confusing whether that's a multiplication or a subtraction. So this is 3 times 2 times -4. Then we move on with the rest of the substitution, plus 2y, and once again that's 2 times y, with y being the -4, because multiplication is a default operation. Then we have minus y over x, so y is -4 on the top, x is 2 on the bottom, plus x squared, with x being 2, so it's plus 2 squared. Now we've substituted in. Once we've substituted in, now the next part is to go ahead and solve for the answer. This is using the PEMDAS. Now that all the variables are gone, and because those variables were just placeholders for those numbers, we've plugged in the numbers. Now we can go ahead and use PEMDAS. Remember, if you're comfortable with your calculator, you can enter this in your calculator at this point exactly how it's written. You can also work it by hand. So when we follow PEMDAS, the first thing we do on PEMDAS is the parentheses. So notice we do have a couple parentheses in this problem, but in this problem, the parentheses are just to contain the negative sign. There's really nothing to solve within this parenthesis. Inside this parenthesis is a -4. There's nothing more to simplify. So in this case, the parentheses are already solved or simplified. Now we go to exponents. So the only exponent we have is this 2 squared over here, and 2 squared becomes a 4. Then we move on to multiplication and division. So we're going to start at the left and do all our multiplication and division from left to right. So the first one we have here is this 3 times 2 times -4. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 times 4 is 24, but because it has a negative, it becomes -24. This is a plus sign, and we're not to plus yet. We're not to the addition and subtraction because that's the last step. We're still on multiplication and division. So the next one is 2 times -4, which when you multiply 2 times a -4, you get a -8. And then here's a subtraction sign again. We're not doing subtraction yet, but the -4 over the 2 is division, so that becomes a -2. And then finally the +4 on the end. Now the next thing I notice is we have a minus and a minus right here, which automatically becomes a plus, so I'm going to go ahead and rewrite that. And the plus negative becomes a -8. Once you've rewritten that, all we're left with is addition and subtraction, and from left to right we can go ahead and do the addition and subtraction. And the -24 minus 8 is -32. -32 plus 2 is -30. -30 plus 4 is -26 for the final answer.